I just want to help us to expose some of these things so that we would be aware of some of the issues that we are having. I learned that someone is telling me that the voice on Facebook hasn't been working. Okay, maybe I should just quickly do a recap of what I've been saying. I learned that the voice has not been okay. Like I said, my name is Nikki Adekunle, and I'm a relationship coach and couple therapist. And I want us to talk about why we have unhealth in our relationships and why we have been frustrated in trying to build the intimacy that we have always desired. And last week, I remember that we started this topic by discussing why do we have unhealthy relationship patterns. Why do we have them? And I remember last week we talked about the fact that there are deficiencies in people and people just refuse to grow beyond their deficiencies. They begin to look for people that would support them and make those deficiency thrive. And some of those things that we identified as deficiency in people last week was the fact that people are generally afraid to have an identity in their relationship. They don't want to be seen as someone that is demanding. They don't want to be seen as someone that is they don't just want to assume a personality. They just want to be the silent, passive player in the relationship. They want to be the dominant partner. And so they usually will not have an identity. And that is one of the reasons why we have unhealthy relationships. And another thing is that when we have people pleasers, I said last week that when we have people pleasers in relationship, that the relationship generally will not thrive because people will just your part in your relationship is just to please the other person. So when the person asks you, okay, jump, your only response is how high. You don't ask what is the rationale behind me jumping, because you are so much afraid of conflict and you don't want to, you just want to be the good spouse, and that is just your own dream. So people like that always make factors like this always ensure that we have dysfunction in our relationship. Thirdly, we talk about people that are weak in their relationship. They show up as weak in their relationships. They don't want to they enjoy being saved. They need a savior that will come, people that will always need their knight in shiny armor to come and get them, rescue them from whatever it is that they are going through. I have financial crisis, I need a rescue, and this person shows up and rescues me. Those kind of people, they show up weak in their relationship. They need help, they need support, and when you have such dynamics, when there's a strong and a weak partner in a relationship, then there's always dysfunction and unhealth in that relationship. And people that show up as too powerful as well in a relationship, there's always that dynamic is always breeding unhealth in the relationship. So if you look at your relationship and you discover that, okay, how am I showing up in my relationship? Am I showing up as strong? Am I showing up as weak? Am I showing up as a people pleaser or a person pleaser? Now, because we are talking about your spouse, am I showing up as a person pleaser, or am I just afraid to have an identity? Definitely, if you're in any of those categories, your relationship already is unhealthy, because that dynamic would always give room for unhealth in your relationship. Then secondly, last week we talked about people that don't just understand the benefits of healthy relationships. They don't understand the benefit of healthy relationships. And so whatever happens is okay by them. They don't care. They don't really mind. So some of them take the posture of a tyrant. They don't know the consequences. They don't know the benefits of not being a tyrant. They don't know. So some people just take up, and some, in those days, we used to have a lot of men play that role where they are the lion of the tribe of their homes. And when they appear, everybody disappears. So that is always also something that produces unhealthy relationship balance in a relationship, then or in your marriage as well. Then last week we talked about the people that don't understand their own value. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they represent, and so they are not bringing themselves into the relationship to offer the relationship the benefit of their wholeness. They don't understand that, and so they just know, they don't know why they are in that relationship. They don't know the value that they command. They don't know it, and so they settle for anything in relationship. And that is one of the reasons why we have unhealthy relationship, people that don't understand their values. Another reason that we spoke about last week was that there are also people that do not understand their contributions. They don't know how they are showing up in their relationship, how their contribution is affecting the dynamics in their relationship. They don't know if, for instance, you appear to be too weak in your relationship. They don't understand that this thing, showing up as weak in your relationship, you play into a role that makes the relationship unhealthy. And so they don't know what their contribution is doing. And some people too that enable people to be weak. So weakness is not just, we're not talking about physical strength now. We are talking about people that just, they just need rescue. What will I do? I don't know. Those kind of behavior. That's what I am referring to as weak. So when you show up as weak, sometimes you don't understand that what you are doing is that you are contributing something to that relationship. So some people show up in their relationship, what they are contributing is that they are being enablers of bad behavior, enablers of people being weak. You just continue to encourage people like that. And so sometimes people show up as enabler, or they're enabled too. They show up, so you don't understand what your contributions are. You don't know that you're encouraging a pattern. And so the way you show up in a relationship also has a lot to do with the unhealth that you eventually produce, the pattern that you will build eventually. And then last week I remember that we also spoke about people that don't know how to negotiate. People that don't know how to negotiate. And last week I remember I said that in a relationship you are there to show your partner how to treat you, show your partner how to love you. And you in the process, there's a lot of negotiations going on. There's a lot of education going on. But if you don't understand what your contributions are, and how to negotiate for better, or okay, you did this, I don't appreciate it when you do that to me, you're unable to negotiate, then that also gives room for unhealth in a relationship. We all need to get to the place where we are able to build the spine. We are able to build the spine to negotiate that, for the way you are treated, for the things that you want, for your part in the finances of the home. We need to grow the courage to be able to negotiate for better. Then I also said last week that one of the reasons why, what we are discussing right now is that why unhealthy relationship patterns are set up in the first place. Why? Then I also said one of the reasons why unhealthy relationship patterns are set up is because people do not know how to communicate. People don't know how to communicate. They would rather just hint. Some people would rather hint. Some people would rather be quiet. Some people will avoid confrontations at all costs. And because of these things, we will continue to have unhealthy relationship patterns. Because if you are not being represented in your relationship, then it means that you will be there managing with whatever is happening, but you are not going to be okay with the dynamics. And already, if you begin to build resentment, then there's no point. The relationship might as well not be working. So I would just say that one of the major reasons. And also, like for people that hint in their relationship, yes, you hint that instead of you to speak clearly. So we need to be able to get to that space where we are able to learn the words to communicate what we think and what we feel and what we want as well in our relationship. So that is one of the reasons as well why we have unhealthy relationship patterns. Then lastly, last week, I remember that we spoke about what other thing did we speak about? Okay, I think that's what all we discussed last week. And I talked about how it was really difficult to build a pattern, and we started talking about how it is set up last week. And I remember that I gave an illustration about getting into a new environment, and which we are going to really talk about today. But before I talk about today's contribution, I would quickly want to read contribution. I would quickly want to I want to quickly answer a question that was posed last week, and I was unable to see last week. I was unable to see it last week, and the question was about girl meets, because I remember last week I was talking about the fact that if you understand your contributions and if you understand your value, and I gave an illustration of a billionaire getting married to a pauper, and everybody feels like the billionaire is doing the pauper a favor by getting married to her, and that if she doesn't understand her value and what she's bringing to the table, the relationship will become unhealthy. The billionaire will begin to lord it over her, and eventually the relationship will become unhealthy. And someone asked a question last week and said, girl loves billionaire. In fact, her dream all her life has been to get married to a billionaire. She just wants to be with a billionaire. And now that she has, this billionaire, who cares? She doesn't really care what happens thereafter. All she's interested in is that I have money and my needs are met, and that's all. And and to that, I would want to say that it depends on the kind of relationship that you want, actually. If you want a relationship that you already have an ulterior motive, and your ulterior motive doesn't have anything to do with love, it just has to do with fulfillment of your own desires, fulfillment of your needs and wants. If those are the reason why you are in a relationship, then already you have defined what you want to do in your relationship. So whatever you get is okay by you, so far you can get what your plan was to get into it. But if your plan is to be married to someone and to be loved and cherished, to build something romantic, to build something beautiful, to be a person in that relationship, to be regarded as a person, to be in the relationship and be regarded as a person and be loved and be respected, then it would usually not work if one party is dominating the other party, because it might, like I was giving an example somewhere. I said that if you are in a relationship with someone that has the upper hand, and you knew that this person has an upper hand in that relationship, but you still felt like, okay, I want to go ahead and I want to be in this relationship. And once you are in that relationship, the thing is, without thinking about it subconsciously, that is how human beings are wired. You begin to look forward to him recognizing you as a person, and beginning for the person to begin to see you as a equal. And after a while, you begin to get frustrated if the person continues to put you in that box where you are just that person that I picked by the roadside. It will usually not work, because after a while you discover that I have tried all my best for you to appreciate who I am as a person. Frustration begins to set in, resentment begins to set in, and that is those are some of the things that we have to deal with in the counseling room that nobody is talking about, because people after a while just build resentment towards their partner because the person is lording it. Nobody is designed to have a marriage relationship, not even a marriage relationship alone, relationships with human beings, whether with you and your children, you and your employees, whatever the equation is. Once there is a lord and a master and servant relationship, usually over time, it begins to bring a lot of animosity and people begin to complain. They may not complain to you outrightly, especially if maybe money is involved, you are paying the person, or you are, if money is involved and the person is getting a particular benefit, they may not complain aloud to you, to your hearing. But trust me, behind your back, something is going on. People are already discussing and they are tired. So human beings, it is anti-human. It is just anti-human to keep people in that space where you are their Lord and Master. But if you are not interested and you can suffer all you care, and what you just want is maybe your agenda is money or fame or whatever, and you get it. But truth is, even after you have gotten it over, after a while, you would soon discover that I think I want more. It's just like that with human beings. So let's continue with our topic for today. So, like I said, today we are talking about, now like I said last week, I just did a recap that we did why unhealthy relationship patterns are set up. But today I want us to talk about how it is set up so that you are aware of what is going on in your relationship as well. On Facebook, I have Femi Adekunle. Good morning. Ovie Dog Bro is here. Good morning. Thank you for being here. So let us talk about today's topic so that we will not spend too much time. Aki is here too. Good morning, Aki. Thank you for being here with me. I appreciate you, so that I'm not here alone. Okay, so today we are talking about how we set up this unhealthy relationship pattern. So last week I gave an illustration and I want us to quickly talk about it, and you are going to find it really very interesting. Last week I gave an illustration that when you go to a new place, what happens in that new place? Usually when you are in a new place, what happens is that everybody gets into that space. And imagine that, let's say you go for a camp. Let's say you go for Theodora. Good morning. Thank you. I see you. Okay, so you go into a new place and maybe a camp or something. And when you get into this camp, nobody really knows themselves. Nobody knows themselves. And so you are in that space and people begin to try to look for connection. The first thing that happens to us, whether we're thinking of it, is that you begin to try to look for your tribe of people. Who are my tribe of people in this place? And I'm not talking about Yoruba tribe, Igbo tribe. No. You're just thinking of people that we can click. Who are the people that we can click? And you're looking for connection. And the moment you make connections, you know that, okay, this person, it looks like my tribe, and you begin to make connections with those people. The next natural thing that should happen is that you begin to educate people on how to treat you. You begin to educate people on how to treat you. But what happens is that most of us, we are on our way. We are on our way that we are supposed to be in a space. We look for connection for our own tribe and we are supposed to be educating them. So how does it play out in marriage? When you are in marriage, already you have made your connection anyway. So maybe that connection part, it's already done. But there is an education. Like when you go to a new place, you begin to tell them, please, I don't want anybody to sit on my bed. I don't like it when you put my pillow on the floor. I don't like it when people wear my slippers. You begin to tell them the things that you can take and the things that you cannot take. So also, does it happen in relationship? In relationship, when we get involved with one another, the first stage that we enter into is that power tussle stage. It's called the power tussle stage. And when you are at this stage, what happens is that everybody is trying to grab power. Whether you're thinking about it consciously or unconsciously, people are trying to gain power. But it is healthy. If we do it right, it's supposed to be healthy. And what do I mean by power? You are bringing yourself, the wholeness of yourself, you are bringing it out to people to see. and that this is who I am, this is what I represent. And you begin to let people see. And that's way your personality, who you are, what you believe in, begins to buy you power. It begins to make people understand who you are. And the mistake most of us make at this stage is that, one, we have people that have an agenda, and they begin to try to form as if they are more than who they are. Have you ever been in that space where you are meeting people for the first time, and some people are claiming that they are more powerful than they are richer than they are bigger than who they are? And after a while, what people forget is that water would always find its level. After a while, you can be in one place and begin to pretend as if you're older than everybody. Who are you? I'm not your. But after a while, people begin to settle down. But that important thing that you should be doing at that stage is being authentic to yourself, which is another mistake that most of us make. We are unauthentic about ourselves. We begin to tell people who we are not. And based on that, people begin to ascribe power to us based on who we are not. And by the time water eventually finds its level, by the time everybody finds its level, you discover that the power you have, you cannot contain it, you cannot manage it. And so instead of, especially for people that are power hungry and power drunk, instead of now getting the respect that you require, people begin to despise you instead. So when you get into a new environment, my advice is, don't pretend to be who you are not. Just be there and represent yourself truly. But another thing that you should do, and you should not miss out on doing, is educate people about who you are, what you want, what you do, what you don't do, what you tolerate and what you cannot tolerate. Because if you can't do this, because it is your responsibility, it is your responsibility to educate people. It is your responsibility. And in marriage too, it is your responsibility to educate your partner on who you are, to tell them the things that you can take, the things that you cannot take. So you come into any space you are with the entirety of who you are. You come with your strength. Let people know how strong you are, the things that you have strength in doing. Let people understand your weakness. It is not a bad thing for people to understand how and when you are weak. Let people know. Let people understand that this is how I am weak. Let people know that it doesn't remove anything from you. Let people understand your personality. Let them understand your expertise. Let them understand the baggages that you have. Must you go around telling everybody? But just be sure that you are being authentic to yourself. Be truthful. Don't pretend that you are who you are not, because eventually water will find its level. Everybody will find their level. I remember there was a time like that I got into so one of my friends, when those days we're still in secondary school, and I was pretending as if I was older than everybody. I was pretending as if I was older than everybody because I just wanted to command their respect. But as you know, it didn't end well, because by the time people found out, even the lies that you will tell to sustain that, identity that you are giving to yourself that you are not, is a lot to deal with. And so I think that we should educate people about what we want, especially the things that we can tolerate and the things that we cannot tolerate. Make sure that you are well represented. Make sure that the things that you can take, you tell people, I don't like this, sweetheart, please, I will not appreciate it when you call me names. When something happens, just address the issues, but don't call me names. I'm not even used to it at all. I don't know how to react. I may not respond well, and I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good husband. Please, please avoid using words to, avoid using curse words when I'm with you. And by the time you are true to it, it is something that you can really not take. After a while, people begin to respect you for it. They know that, okay, this person don't. You will see people talk about people, and everybody talks about everybody. So you know the things that you say about people, and you say that, oh no, that she doesn't take that kind of thing, or oh no, she's very down to the earth. You know, people, you know, eventually. But the injustice that we do to ourselves is that we don't educate people well, and we now make it their fault for not understanding us. So we make it their fault for not treating us the way we want to be treated. So in marriage, we should be conscious that there is a power tussle phase that we go through. There's a power tussle, and which is one of the first 1 to 5 years where people begin to gain more grounds. It looks like a bad word, but it is just who you are. But and eventually, subconsciously or consciously, people begin to gain more grounds. They begin to learn how to treat you. They begin to learn how not to treat you. And at that phase, I would really advise that please be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Let people know who you are. Let people understand the things that you can accept and the things that you cannot accept. Then the second stage that we go to is we begin to learn. The next stage that we go to after the power tussle stage, where everybody is hustling for power and for recognition and whatever. The next stage that we would naturally get into is we all begin to learn to settle into our roles. We all begin to learn. Imagine that place that you went to recently, that you were new there, whether you're new office, wherever it is. Then after a while, everybody begins to learn to settle into their roles. Everybody begins to learn to settle into their roles. And what happens at this stage is that we have tried each other long enough. Like, you know, children do it as well. You know, when you try to say, don't make noise there, and they will now say, ah! you know, you not, ah, are you okay? But if you continue to ignore that, okay, it's a child, they just know that mommy will not do anything. In fact, I remember there was a time like that my children were saying something like, because their teacher asked me that, please ensure that they write well. Make sure that they write well. They were teaching them how to write cursive handwriting. And so their teacher said, please, ensure that they write well. So, but you know, when they make little mistakes, I'll be like, oh, don't worry. At least you're average, you're getting better, you're improving. So one day, I now heard them talking to them. They were very small at that time. They were telling themselves, my twins, that somebody was like, no, I made a mistake. I want to clean it. Then the other person said, don't worry now, Shebi, you're writing for mommy. Mommy will not say anything. I say, okay. Now mommy has to begin to say something. So they were trying, to see, after we have tried each other long enough, we get into that stage where we begin to settle into roles. We settle into our roles. We recognize that, no, my husband does not like me waking him up in the night to talk about any serious matter. Anything I want to talk about, I will talk about it during the day. If you have woken me from your own culture, from your own end, you talk about issues, you know, in the night, you wake the person up, but you have woken him up the first time and it's like, if you try it, by the time you do it 2 times, you know that, okay, this person really does not, and you understand your role. We begin to settle into roles. We begin to accept the roles that we are that we can be assigned to ourselves. I don't even know how to say the English now, but you know, you begin to settle into roles generally. And maybe to put it into more perspective, we begin to, you know, learn how to, because we have tried people, people have educated us, so we begin to accept. And we have not, because the education is not as important as the action that they also use in supporting it. You have looked at them, you have carried them vis-a-vis whatever they are saying, and now you know that, okay, this person, this is the box I'm going to create and put this person in. I'm sure that in your head, you know the people that you say, these are my VVIP, these are my VVVVVIP, and these are my don't worry people, and these ones I can. So, but you just put them in a box and you begin to, you label them as such, and they begin to find, you know, and they begin to stay in that space. But if there's anything that I would advise at this stage, ensure that if people do not get what you really stand for, who you are, ensure that you really, really try to negotiate. Ensure that you continue to put it forward that this is not who I am. This is not who I am. Begin to still push for better. Because when you eventually settle into a role, when, like for instance, last week I was talking about people that show up weak in their relationship. And when you are weak and you always need somebody to save you, you are settled inside that role. Your role is now, when you are weak, I will be strong. So you can't, that is who you are. But whatever you are negotiating, make sure that you negotiate something good for yourself. Look at all the sides of the story before you decide to settle for one aspect. Because once you settle into that role, it is going to be difficult to break. So whatever you are negotiating, ensure that you are not negotiating your personality. Ensure that your personality is not up for negotiation. Ensure that your personality is not up for negotiation. Ensure that, and also ensure that your dignity is not up for negotiations. I've seen a lot of ladies that, settle for being tossed around, settle for a controlling husband that will just be saying, oh, you go there, come back here, come back, and those kind of relationships. You would think that, okay, for now, let me to just create peace, but eventually it becomes a strong thing. Imagine someone that you yourself feel like, this person is my errand boy, and the person wants to break free. It's always very difficult, because once you settle into a role, people accept you as that person. Even if you are dealing with artisans or something, once they come cheap, it is difficult for you to upgrade them. You just feel like, okay, this is my cheap tailor. I can always make cheap clothes from these ones. So when the person is now trying to to level up, you are wondering, are you too? So ensure that you are negotiating for, and if people don't get who you are, always try to negotiate better. Then after this part, then we have established patterns. Already, if after this stage we now have established patterns, and now people begin to demand for it. One of the things that happen at this stage is that people begin to demand for it. They begin to respect the patterns. They begin to demand for that pattern. They begin to respect it, and they begin to expect it. So they demand, they respect, and they expect at this stage. So it happens something like, maybe for instance now, maybe in my church, say we call my pastor Papa now, for instance, and somebody just comes and says that I'm asking for Samuel. Everybody's like, are you okay? You don't know that it's Papa. So everybody just feels like, are you okay? Because that is the norm. That is what is not because they demand it. It's just an endearing thing for us. We just generally endear him by calling him Papa. So it's not, but by the time somebody comes and just says, I'm asking for Sam, and everybody's like, are you okay? You can't even say Pastor Sam, not to say Papa, so at that time, people begin to demand for these established roles. They begin to demand it because it has not become a pattern, and people begin to demand it. Or maybe I'm in a space now and somebody comes and does not auntie me, and I feel like to you I'm auntie, I would demand it. Even people around will scold you that, are you okay? So be careful. So it's at the beginning that we ensure that we create the rights, we understand each other, we generally educate people, because if you don't educate people at that point, you might be missing a lot, because to go back and change things might be really difficult. So in our relationships too, that's how it happens. And established patterns, like I said, example is, for instance, if there is an angry husband that is always getting angry, his own role in that relationship is to get angry. The wife's role is to pacify. So after a while, if he gets angry and nobody is pacifying him, he himself will even demand it. Even the children, everybody will say, and daddy was angry like that. You couldn't even beg him and say sorry so that all the issues can just stop. This is how it plays out in our relationship, because we allow it. You took a role of always pacifying an angry person. You don't care why the person is angry. You just say, okay, because I don't want problem. It's easier to see in children, but when it's our partner, it's difficult to see. But because if it is for our children now, once they throw tantrums, we know that, okay, let me just quickly pacify. If you continue to pacify, that child will continue to demand for whatever it is that he's demanding for, because he knows that he will always get his way. So if you have somebody that's always getting angry unnecessarily, sometimes pack face away and just, but that can happen at the beginning, like I said, just, why are you angry? What is making you angry? And if you're angry and you don't want to play with all of us, oh yeah, every other person gather here and come and play. I remember those days that I used to get upset and I'll stay upset. And I would expect that because I'm upset, everybody should quieten down in the house, that I'm angry for now. So everybody should know that there is war for now. But people will continue to play, and after a while, I just learned that I beg, people are not going to adopt my mood, really. And which is the best thing to do anyway. People will not adopt your mood, and so you need to just get to that point where you know that there's no reward for staying in that space. So sometimes people get angry and another person takes the role of a pacifier. And sometimes some people have drunken husbands that will always fall in the gutter. So their own role is to fall in the gutter. Their wife's role is to go and pick them and clean them up. Some people, it's with infidelity. Their husband's role is to have girlfriend. Especially, I've heard of a case where this person is a pastor and he's always falling. I don't know whether it's falling now, falling into adultery. And once it happens, the wife does everything to ensure that the thing dies down, because she understands that if it gets out, then they're going to be in trouble, because they are pastors, they're not supposed to be doing that kind of a thing. So she does everything. So, but the thing is that the issue is not dying, because the man knows that when I commit my crime, somebody is going to be there to clean up my tracks. So, he has taken the role of the adulterer. The wife is the one that covers the track. So you have taken your role, and it is now established. And so that is how we do these things, and we see problems recurring in the marriage, and we are wondering, where are these things coming from? And we don't understand, but these are some of the things that are responsible. And that sometimes too, you have husbands that their wives are spendthrifts. They are always spending money, the money that they cannot make. They will spend, blow up their accounts, especially in those countries that have credit cards. Blow up the credit card, and you will still be saying, she was from a rich family. It's because of the issues that they now have with their family. She doesn't know how to manage. The thing is, used to is not it's not what is selling now. Used to. So if they used to be rich and now they are no longer rich, and now you are married to a man, you need to look at his pockets before you spend. So they continue to give them money. You are wondering, why are you enabling this person? They don't understand that the role that they are playing in that relationship is the role of an enabler. They always encourage. They don't know that they're encouraging, but what they're doing is that they're encouraging bad behavior, and the person will continue to be in that. So what role have you taken in your own home and in your relationship, whether you're single or married? What role are you taking? And is it okay for you to play in that space? You need to think about it in your own relationship as well. What role am I playing? And the last and final stage in this, the way we set up unhealthy relationship pattern, is that there is reinforcement. There is reinforcement in and that the last stage, like I said, is reinforcement. And in reinforcement, compliance is expected. Compliance is expected, and non-compliance is met with consequences. Non-compliance is met with consequences, because when we get to the reinforcement stage, it just simply means that right now we are so deep in whatever it is that we are into, that if I comply, there's a reward, and if I don't comply, there is punishment for me. And how does that play out in our relationships? I want to use the example of that proverbial elephant that was tied to a tree, to a little tree, when the elephant was young and small. that elephant was unable to move because at that point he didn't have enough strength. But as he grew and grew and grew, and we all know the size of an elephant, if the elephant tries harder, he will know that I can actually uproot this tree. But because it has been conditioned to think in a particular way, the elephant feels like I can't move and this is my limit. Whatever the limit of the rope is, that is my limit. So also does it happen in relationship. We get to a point where the things that we have practiced, the things that we have done, whether it is good for us or not, because we fear consequences, because we fear punishment, and because we are expecting a reward, we would always comply with those things so that the relationship can continue to move, because so that the relationship can continue to progress. Because if we don't, the relationship will not progress. They are going to be causing a clog in the wheel of how that relationship operates, whether it is healthy or not. And that is why unhealthy relationship patterns are difficult to break. And so how does this play out in our relationship? So if you are in that relationship, punishment is not necessarily go and kneel down and raise up your hand. No. Punishment can be people guilt tripping you. Punishment can be people just looking at you as if you are odd, you have horns, and what is it that you are doing? For instance, let's say that you are in your relationship, in your family of origin, for instance. Let's say that you have a dad that is an adulterer. Is always going out, having relationships with people, women, and everything. But the culture in that home is that we see an elephant and pretend it is not there. Whether there's an elephant in the room, everybody just walks past it. We don't want to know whether it is there or not. The culture is silence. Just close your mouth, because once you close your mouth, everything is okay. Pretend that you can't see. Then one child that was born yesterday, maybe your last born, that in fact maybe is even a child of mistake, now suddenly looks at your father in the face one day and says, Daddy, what is even wrong with you? Do you know how everybody would look at that child? Everybody would look at, are you okay? Because the culture is that we have all learned to keep quiet. We have all learned to look the other way. Nobody confronts issues. And so by confronting the issue, it will be met with punishment. And the punishment is, people scolding you, people telling you what you are doing is wrong. And that is, and because of that, if you do that long enough, that child would, well, I don't want to go into so much of science and psychology, but the child can do two things. But for now, let me just say that the child will quieten down and just keep quiet, or he will begin to react in his own ways, being rebellious and all of that. But there is no space for that child in that space. So also is it in marriage. When you have allowed something for too long and it has gotten to this stage, it has to remain that way, because for national peace, like one of my friends will say, so that there can be peace in the Middle East, you have to just let things be that way so that you don't rock the boat. But at the beginning, you can do something about it. So at this point, the consequences are real, and rewards are real. So a reward can come in the form of affirmation. The person, maybe maybe your wife that is a spendthrift, for instance, she's always spending money anyhow. By the time you now say, why did you go and buy lace of 120K again? You know that there's no money for this. You say, I'm sorry, I love you with my whole life. And you have to hug the person. Then that is your reward. You are not sure that is your reward. But somewhere in your subconscious, you're always looking forward to that reward of somebody hugging you eventually and telling you that. So you just feel like, okay, all the stress is worth it, because eventually she loves me deeper. And that is your reward for always doing what you are doing. So in your relationship, I would want to ask, what are the rewards that you get for encouraging and enabling people? What are those rewards? Look deep within you and see the reward that you get that just makes you keep quiet. Or some of us, it is the drive for perfection. When you get to that space where you are able to, um, be that perfect wife, so that in the face of the watching world, you are a perfect wife. Everybody says that, even though they are stressing her, she's just always very, very quiet and temperate. That is the reward you get for it. You may not be sure of the satisfaction that you get for the reward from the reward, but it is there. There is something that is always, the reward and the punishment for, in reinforcing whatever pattern that we have built over time. So we need to if we need to change things, we need to think, this thing that I've always allowed, like we discussed some time ago, we talked about a spouse that's maybe the woman is the breadwinner. What is in it for you? You always have to ask yourself that question. What's in it for me? What do I stand to gain by encouraging this behavior? What do I stand to gain? So you need to always be aware. And once something gets into the reinforcement stage, the only other thing that we can do is to pass it down. Just pass it down the family line. And that is the only thing. And that is how patterns are built. So in our relationships, it will be difficult to change a lot of things. It will be difficult to change a lot of things because it didn't just happen overnight. It took years to build. And sometimes when we come for couple therapy, like when we see some of them in my office, they want it to change overnight. They want things to change overnight, but usually things don't change overnight. So what is my recommendation for the balance of power in our relationship? What is my recommendation for the balance of power? In our relationship, we should strive. We should strive to ensure that we have at least, if you can have a 50-50 arrangement where your spouse has 50% of the power and you have 50% of the power, is good, because that way, and when I mean 50-50%, what I mean is certain areas you are the one that is in charge, certain areas your partner is in charge. So that way it can work. Another thing that can also work perfectly is when your husband has slightly more power than the wife, when there's just that little gap between them, say 60-40 power, that works as well. But anything that tilts the balance of power in, when it is over tilted, when we are having 85-15, there will be unhealth in that relationship, and you don't want your relationship to be unhealthy, because eventually it does not work. Anybody that has too much power, you will enjoy it for now, but eventually what is happening with your partner is that they are building resentment against you. They are hating the space where they are, and after a while they begin to take it out. It begins to show up in passive aggressive behaviors towards you, and you do not want to experience that. That is why, like I said, after 35 years of marriage, people just stand up one day and say that I have had enough. I have had enough. And there are some times that some women are saying something like, after all that I have sacrificed, and you're wondering, you didn't give him money, you didn't give him land, you didn't give him cars. So what have you sacrificed? They've sacrificed their dignity, they've sacrificed a lot, their personality, who they are, they've sacrificed it, and yet you are demanding for more. And at that point, after 35 years, 40 years, 25 years of marriage, ridiculous ages that you think that they've survived marriage eventually, people just get tired and just want to have a life, and they want to breathe, and you do not want to have that on your hands. So if you are having complications in your relationships and you don't know how to go about it, in fact, you generally feel unheard and misunderstood, I would ask that you speak to us. That is what we do. Like I said earlier while I was talking about this, established relationship patterns, they are difficult to recognize. You need a skilled eye to help you look at it properly and to be able to dissect it. Relationship patterns are difficult to recognize, and as difficult to recognize as it is, you might be looking at another person's relationship and you'll be able to see it, but in your own, to be difficult, it is difficult to recognize, and it is also difficult to break. It is very difficult to break patterns like that, and it is also very difficult to change. But that is where we come in. That is our profession. That is what we do. We help, we help with couple therapy. We help you to dissect what the issues are, the underlying issues in your marriage, in your relationship, so that you can build a healthier relationship. And if looking for a healthier relationship is what you want in your relationship, you are not there with an agenda to acquire wealth or anything. If getting a healthy relationship, a relationship where you are truly happy, where you are able to experience ecstasy, where you are able to build intimacy, ultimately is what you are interested in, that is why we are here. Like I keep saying, my name is Nike Adekunle. I'm your couple therapist and relationship coach. I am also the founder of Swim Relationship Academy. I'm the founder and dean of school of Swim Relationship Academy. We have courses online if you want to, understand your relationship more. And if you need help, you want to talk to someone about the things that are going on in your relationship, don't wait anymore. Don't stay for too long in that space. Don't continue to suffer when you can speak to a professional that will help you in that space. And if there is any question, if there's anything that you want to, if there's any contribution that you have, a question that you want to talk about, please, maybe you can quickly drop it so that we can address it before I go. I think I have 1 or 2 minutes left so that I can answer your question. Let me just quickly see the comments that I have here. Okay, Akin is here, Theodora is here, Mama Angie is here. Thank you very much for being here. Femi Adekunle is here. Niidumade is here. Thank you so much for being here. Ijoma Emmanuel is here. Don't take up a role you cannot keep up with. Yeah, thank you. That is well said. Thank you very much. Theodora Ayeni said, demand for expected and established patterns. Wow, how we miss subtle patterns. Yeah, it's very difficult to miss. You hardly know when you are building it, and you just discover that you are fitted into a pattern that you did not bargain for. Femi Adekunle said peace in the middle is, yeah. Thank you very much everyone for watching. If we have any questions, and in the absence of any question, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Keep thinking about your relationship. I will be here to provide you with the science behind our relationship, our reason, and how our relationship will ultimately play out. I'll be here to supply you with those details. And if that is what you're interested in, you're not just interested in knowing who is wrong and who is right, because eventually there's something that everyone is committed, there's something everyone is contributing to the pot. There's something that we are all contributing to the issues that we are having in our relationship. Thank you, Niidumade, for being here. God bless you. I appreciate you very much. Thanks. And if you like our videos, please help us like it, help us share it, help us, spread the word around. And until I come your way next time, I want to say thank you very much as I sign out. God bless you. Bye.